Perfect. And I'm just going to come back to me. Let's see if I can get myself on there. Oh, look, there I am. Hello. Hi, this is a tired Lise Lorentzen. It's a pleasure seeing everybody. It has been a very interesting month and a half. So I'm going to call May is now Maycember. It's like December without the glittery lights. So this is the joy of having your youngest graduate high school and your middle graduate college. So that's been interesting. And then maybe it's June, December. I think I have only been home 3 days in the entire month of June. So, and I was also, I had a horrendous sinus infection as well. So I apologize. I really had hoped to get everything out last week before I left for convention, and life just happened. So as always, I really do try to send out the supply list when you sign up for the class. So I hope you know that supply list does provide the colors and the background colors. And even if it's a little late, this was way later than I planned, that you will get the pattern packet and everything with that. So thank you for your patience. I truly, truly appreciate it. So in the pattern packet, you've got your line drawings, you got your front and your back, as well as your color samples here. And I have to tell you, part of my problem was I actually had writer's block. So as you can see, there's quite a bit that comes with the writing of putting together pattern packets, and usually I'm pretty good. And I just sat down and I was like, it wasn't coming, even though I know. So that was part of the problem. And I think it was just the pressure of taking care of everything else. So again, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope everybody was able to put their pattern together, put their so, and typically, again, when I send out my pattern packets or my supply list, at least you know definitely what your background color is going to be. So thank you. And let me tell you, so for those who don't know or aren't aware, I just came back from what they call the Rosemalling Coast to Coast, ignore the phone in the background, Rosemalling Coast to Coast Convention. If there are those out there that are not familiar with Rosemalling Coast to Coast, it is a national rosemalling association that began in about 2016, 2017. The first convention was held in 2018 with the second one in 2019. We went to odd years so that we didn't coincide with Sons of Norway conventions. So those first two conventions were held in Decorah at Luther College, and we had access to Vesterheim. 2021, obviously, we had lovely COVID, so they were online. And then 2023, we were in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And this year we were in Minneapolis, actually outside, right by the airport. 2027, I'm not sure where we're going to be, whether it will be Minneapolis again or if it will go back down to Decorah. We're trying to keep it so that it's easy for people to get to. So it was kind of nice to have it in Minneapolis because it's a hub. Obviously, there's a lot of organizations or a lot of groups, so that's wonderful to join too. All right. So that being said, does anybody have any questions before I start this evening? No, we're good? Okay. Again, I'm a little tired. I'm a little slap happy. I'll twitch a little bit, but it's okay. Just a funny side note, because some of my group will come on either later or they'll come on in the recordings. I've been told from everybody that came out to visit me and those who've been in many of my classes, they want to create Lisa Bingo. Because how many times do I repeat myself? It's all good. Take your shoulders off your ears. There's certain Lisa isms. So we might have to create Lisa Bingo. I might send it out to everybody when we have classes. And then at some point, everybody can yell bingo. All right. So I am a creature of habit. It's not going to change. All right. On that note, let me go back. I know it's really funny, actually, because I said something in class and somebody went bingo, and there's not even a card yet. So it was really funny. So thank goodness as you all know, I do not take myself seriously. because yeah, that's just not happening. It's not worth it. Okay, everybody. So let's take a look at our pattern here. This is what I hope is a lovely Gudbrandsdal design. And you're going to notice when you got your full packet today. Oh yeah, so part of the other problem is, and thank you to Cheryl first who really noted it, is that my printer, my original very good printer died, and I've been using my husband's printer, and it's been shrinking the pattern down. So I do have to replace my printer. So I've had to go to Staples to print everything out or to scan it. And fortunately, it seems to be to scale now, which is lovely. So let me just talk about the pattern here a little bit. And you're going to notice that your first one is an extremely symmetrical pattern that we're working with 4 central flowers that repeat themselves. And then we're going off into these nice green leaves that have the overturn. Again, I like to say that Gudbrandsdal kind of hurts the brain because it's a 2D art style that looks 3D, right? So we want to break that down. And then we built off of that. Our background design, or our back of the project design, pulls the similar elements that we use from the front of the design, but instead of making a super symmetrical, like in 4 quarters, we kind of split it in half this time, and we built off of that. I will note in the pattern itself, in the writing, I said you can eliminate this when we get to the second half, so you can put something here, or you can use the top portion. All right, so anything in this center you can eliminate. So if you want to put the year, you want to put Good Yule, you want to put Merry Christmas, you want to put a house number, whatever you want to do, it can be there. Okay, so that's what I did. But we'll deal with that on Thursday. So first things first, we're going to come to the front of the pattern. We're going to go ahead and just put our palette together first. And if you had an opportunity, and it's totally fine if you didn't, but if you had an opportunity to read my pattern packet this time, what I did is I broke it down to sections. I did say what colors we're using for each section. So for example, we're going to work with our 4 central flowers here. It did tell you the colors we're using and also the detail colors, because we're actually going to deal with the turned leaves right away in this section, and then we're going to build outwards. Now, everybody works at their own pace. I think those that were with me live and in person, I work to your speed. So if you are a slower painter, don't worry about covering everything. Take care of a portion of this so that you can finish the rest of it on your own. If you are a faster painter, you can go ahead and do more portions. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. So don't stress if you're slower, and don't stress if you're faster. Work at your pace. Okay. My goal is to cover everything with this to the best of my ability, including the detailing portion. All right. So that we can focus then on this back. And if we don't, we can deal with some of the detailing when we get to Thursday. How does that sound to everybody? Mm-hmm. Good? Okay. I will say that it is wonderful to have the opportunity to be in person. I encourage anybody, if you have the opportunity to take a class in person, do so. But isn't it wonderful that we have this Zoom that just comes to your... Let's go ahead and set up our palette here in your packet. The second time I sent this, I actually got my writing on here. Believe it or not, I was sitting at the hotel in Minneapolis putting this all together. Mm-hmm. Oh. Because that's the only time I really had. People were walking by me like, what is she doing? You know, so we're going to go ahead and set up our colors here. You're going to notice that your dark blue is straight Prussian blue. Isn't that lovely? So let's go ahead and take out our straight Prussian blue to start with. Okay, let me open up my palette here. It always amazes me that they don't pull my suitcases aside when I'm traveling, when I have all my brushes, my palette knives, and everything else. They never stop me. Then hopefully I don't jinx myself, since I'm going to Alberta in August and San Diego in October. So let's not jinx myself. All right, I'm going to put a small portion of Prussian blue there. You can see I don't need much. Let's see, do I have a penny? I do. Most of you know this, but there's the comparison to a penny. Very little paint, okay? I'm going to leave that straight. I'm going to put about the same amount next to it, maybe a little less. This is to set up my medium blue, which will be Prussian blue to warm white. And I said 2 to 1. I might actually put a little more Prussian blue there, because we use a fair amount of that medium blue. So let's go ahead and do 2 to 1. Let's pull out my warm white here. I apologize. I'm still coughing. I had a horrendous sinus infection that the doctor at urgent care didn't want to believe was a sinus infection. And I told him, I have been living with my body for 56 years. I know exactly what this is. Please give me antibiotics. He's like, are you really sure? I'm like, you have known me for 5 minutes. Yes, I am sure. So thankfully, I got antibiotics, but as you can see, 3 weeks later, I am still coughing. All right, let's go ahead and mix this together. Oh, I have a clump in my white. Let's get rid of that. Now, I'm not adding medium. Okay, I'm holding my medium aside. This blue needs a little bit more white in it. Okay, so we'll add a little bit more white. I am using my wet palette here. I do have a spray bottle with some water on it, depending on your temperature. Is anybody working with oils tonight?
I am.
Who is that?
John.
Okay.
I am, Carol.
Perfect. So you guys will not have issue with the humidity or anything else. So don't worry about that. I'm going to address my acrylic painters. Just be aware, depending on how hot it is or anything like that, your paint might dry out on you. My oil painters, no worries, that will hold steady. Okay. I very happily, I did teach a Gudbrandsdal class while I was out in Minnesota, and that was half oils and half acrylics. And what I do when I'm live and in person, I start everybody together, and then I start back and forth. I go between the oils and acrylics on this. So I will make sure and address it. So I just want that nice medium tone there. Okay. If you feel you need to add a little bit more white, that's okay. And we're going to take just a small portion of this, whatever is left on my palette knife, I'm going to take over to the side here. And I'm going to add white to that. And that will be my light white. So really it's Prussian blue to 1 to 2. So we're going to put my white on this. Now, titanium white for my oil painters is totally fine. That will mix well and tone down. I will say sometimes when I talk to everybody, and if we're working on a detail white on a yellowish background or a greenish background, and I tone it down with yellow oxide, unbleached white works in the oils. Just so you know, okay?
Okay.
Just a little tip on that one. I have to add that. The other thing I add, because I primarily teach in acrylics now, when I do these patterns and do these pattern packets, if my oil painters find that my suggestion for the oils doesn't really work, please email me and let me know so I can fine tune my pattern with that. Okay. So I can make sure that there's the best options possible, if that makes sense to everybody. Okay. All right. The nice thing after this is our only mixing. Everything else comes out of the tube. So I'm not going to worry beyond these 3 colors right now, because the very first thing we're doing is those blue flowers in the center. So I'm going to hold off from adding anything else to my palette. We will add it as we need it. How does that sound? Okay, perfect. All right.
Lisa,
Yeah.
I had a question.
Sure, Cindy.
I thought I had all the colors when I checked the list of paints.
Yeah.
But yellow deep, apparently I don't have that.
Go for Turner's yellow. Do you have Turner's yellow?
Yes, I think I do.
You use Turner's yellow.
Okay. Thank you.
It's not as yellowy, but it has a nice bright tone to it.
Okay.
All right.
Which yellow is that?
That's when she was talking about the yellow deep, which is like a very bright yellow.
I don't have
like this
either.
one. If you have Turner's yellow,
okay.
that would work fine.
I have India yellow.
India yellow would be perfect. Yeah, India yellow is a great one. And some might have it. If you have the old tube, it's Indian with an N yellow. That's totally fine as well. Okay. Notice I have already gotten paint all over myself. There you go. Very successful at that. All right. So let me bring our friend over here. By the way, did the video that I sent out from my YouTube for the Gudbrandsdal leaf, was that a nice little refresher for those who watched it? Okay, fabulous.
I didn't get that.
You didn't get it?
No.
It was in the email that I sent yesterday that had the Zoom link in it.
Great. I'll check.
Who was that? Yeah, who was that said that, by the way?
Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Number 2.
Christine.
I must have missed.
Yeah, it was at the very bottom. Just so you know, and I'll resend that link. All right, just to check to make sure it came through. All right, so we're going to take the larger of our blue brushes. And by the way, I'm just going to pull out my sample here. Okay, so here's my sample. A little smaller, but it still goes into the different portions of this. And you're going to see this does repeat itself. Let me make sure I'm on the center. So we're dealing with this shape here, which there's 4 of them. And if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm taking the Prussian blue, the dark blue. And do you see how I'm almost making a smile, right? So we're going to make this smile here with our Prussian blue. And then we're going to wipe out our brush and come down with our medium blue at the top. And we're going to paint this in and come down and meet in the center here. And then we're going to blend this out. Okay. So the interesting thing with Gudbrandsdal, when you look at it, well, when you look at the finished piece here, do you see all of this that I'm making you paint? No. Why do you think I make you paint all of this? Anybody have an idea? And it's okay if you don't.
To blend.
To blend, yes. Because in your pattern packet, if you notice, I didn't put those lines in there. Can you imagine if you were trying to get that blend and not cross those lines? Could you blend this as well? No. So the trick with Gudbrandsdal is you have to paint all of this that's behind it, even though you're going to paint over it. Because that's what's going to make it look natural. When you look at a flower in nature, and the petal flips over, does that mean that under petal doesn't exist? No, that under petal exists, right? So that's why it needs to exist in the painting. Does that make sense?
Right.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and make that exist. All right. So I'm going to take the larger of my round brushes. I suggested a 3 and 2. And again, when I say a suggestion, that means if that brush doesn't work for you and another brush does work for you, please feel free to use it. Okay. I'm not coming to, okay, bingo. I'm not coming to knock on your door and say you're not using the brush that I use. We're adding that to the bingo list. I'm just going to put the list together and put out for everybody. All right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. And by the way, I am going to just take out a little bit of my medium. And do I have? Yes, I do. I'm really not using medium in my brush right now, but I'm going to have a little bit for my oil painters. It's your linseed oil, walnut oil, whatever you're using. For my acrylic painters, it's my mix or whatever works for you. I am not going to use very much of this because if I do, it becomes transparent. We don't want it to become transparent. We want it to be opaque. But if your paint is not moving, then you want to use a little bit of it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm not putting my brush in water for my acrylic painters. I'm going in dry into my blue paint here. Okay, and I'm going to turn this in such a way so it's easy for me to paint it. And I'm going to go up. Notice I've got this nice little bump here, right? I'm just going to outline it just to show you where I'm going. Everybody see that? Everybody see what I'm painting in? Okay. So it's almost like a double C stroke. So I've got a C on this side. There's that knob coming down. Right? I'm going to put it in this way. I'm going to go ahead and turn it and come in the opposite direction. And I really want that darkness up in that circle there. So I've got a nice little happy face here. Okay. Nice little happy face. All right. All right. So very important that we get that in there. And I'm only doing one at a time. I'm not going to go ahead and do two of them. I'm just going to show the first one, but I'll repeat. Okay. So nice little happy face. Perfect. For my oil painters and for my acrylic painters, doesn't matter. We're going to go ahead and take our piece of paper towel, right? You know that I like my little squares of paper towel. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze out the paint. I'm like literally squeezing this out, taking that dark out. I don't have to clean it, but I can just pull as much of that paint out of here. So you can see I pulled that out. There's really not much there. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and load with my medium blue. Okay. Now I like to load my brush. If you see how I'm holding my hand like this, I'm kind of holding it down. I'm not holding it this way and loading. I load it where I'm holding from the top and I roll it through. I twist with my fingers. And the reason I load like that is one, I've learned how that helps to get my brush to a point, but it also really fills up my brush with plenty of paint. Okay. Okay. So I'm at a tip here. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead to the top here and I can actually pull a straight line just down. See how I pulled that straight down. Let me make sure I'm in screen. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in the space here. So it's got a nice little acorn top here, and then it's got a bump. And I'm not worried about blending yet. I just want to bring it so that it matches here and it kind of fills right underneath. You can see I still have a little bit of that dark blue is still wet. So I'll wipe off my brush a little bit. I just want to fill this in. Okay.
Lisa, I have zero memory. Is that the medium blue?
That is the medium blue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It's the dark blue and the medium blue. The light blue I'm not using until I detail.
Okay.
All right. So I'm using the dark blue and the medium blue. All right. So now, can you see how everybody how that looks right now? All right. What I want to do now is blend this edge together between the two. Now, I'm going to turn it sideways. For my acrylic painters, this might be dry on you already. My oil painters, you don't have that issue. But my acrylic painters, you might want to go back into a little bit of my dark blue. and go ahead over the edge here just to wet this up. Okay. I'm going to wipe my brush. We do a lot of wiping paint off our brush so that it doesn't overwhelm colors. And I'm going to go back after I wipe my brush, take a little bit of the medium blue. Okay, dark blue, medium blue. Ignore the light blue. And I'm going to put a little bit right here on the edge where they're going to meet. Okay, so they're nice and wet right now. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, I'm going to wipe paint off my brush. And then I'm going to go over that line between the two and start to blend it. So I'm going to do one stroke, and then I'm going to wipe my brush again. I'm going to take the paint off my brush. Make sure this is close enough so everybody can see this. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead again and wipe. I want to make that line between the two. Wipe your brush again. Same for oils and acrylic. I want to start blending that line. Notice I keep wiping. Now I'm going to go ahead. Now I'm at the point where the two lines between the dark and the medium have kind of blended out. So I can wipe a few times. Now, if one color overpowers the other, right? If you've got too much dark blue or too much medium blue, that means you need to wipe your brush. Okay. Now I've reached a point here where it's almost dried out. So I'm going to add a little medium blue here to wake up my paint. This is not an issue with oils because your paint stays wet, but acrylics, we need to add a little bit. I'm just blending that line between the two. Can you see that it's helping by wiping off your brush? Right? Doesn't
Yes.
it? Right? Because instinctually, when things have trouble blending, we think we need to add more paint. Where in reality, we need to take paint away. We need to wipe off our brush so that one color doesn't overwhelm the other color. Does that make sense? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to make sure that that bump here, it's like a double-headed C, right? With that dark blue. I want to make sure that dark stays in there. Now, keep working on this. I'm going to demonstrate this again because the nice thing with this is there's 4 of them. I'll just show it again. How does that sound for everybody? Good? Okay, so I'm going to go back into my dark blue. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do that double-headed C here. So there's a C stroke on this side and a C stroke on this side. This is where, if you're a faster painter, you can go ahead. If you're a slower painter, just take your time. There isn't a rush. Isn't that nice to know? Right? How many times have you sat in class, whether in person or on Zoom, and felt the panic? No panic on this, okay? No panic. All right. You just see. What's in San Diego in October? Yes, that was Cheryl. In October, Cheryl, there is the California Rosemalling Association has their convention. I think it's the 3rd weekend in October. And I've been very blessed to be asked to come out there a 2nd year in the row to teach with them. And I am doing, Lynn, has the piece gone out yet?
Has what?
Have you published the piece?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a Tina that I'm painting with them out there. All right. All right, so I'm doing the medium blue.
What's the website, Lisa? I apologize for interrupting, but.
Oh, no, that's okay. It's the California Rosemalling Association.
Okay, thank you.
You are so welcome.
And there are only 10 spaces left.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Wow.
As of today.
Holy smokes.
And it's right in San Diego?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
And the hotel is right next to the old city.
Old Town.
Old Town. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, lady.
Yep. Wow. That teacher must be okay. Just saying. Okay. Wow. I'm very honored. All right. So, and I've got my medium blue and my dark blue. Is this making sense to everybody? Okay. Isn't it nice how I really like how these colors mix. So it's interesting where I said the medium blue and the dark blue, but isn't it interesting that there is actually a dark medium that is created by this blend in between, right?
Mhm.
But I didn't put that in the color chart there because it's only created when you blend these two colors together. And if I had said it, then it would have made so much confusion. Notice though, what I'm doing is I'm trying to blend so I keep that nice roundness here. Okay. The base of our flower, and those that were with me in Minneapolis could see that the piece that I did for that convention actually has a similar center flower. Cynthia, do you see that? Right? So similar, but you want to keep that nice round shape there, okay? I'm going to go ahead and do the third one. Again, not a rush. Do as many as you can or as few. It doesn't matter because the nice thing is you can come back to this later. But I'm just going to go ahead and repeat so you see this a few times. Okay. Excuse me. It's 3.5 weeks and I still have a cough.
Lisa, can I interrupt for a minute and
Of-
ask you a question? Which kind of brush are you using? Is that a filbert or round?
No, this is a round.
Okay, all right.
And that is in my supply list there. I use rounds. I very rarely use filberts. Now, if you're comfortable with a filbert, you certainly can use it. But with this, I use the rounds. There's a lot of bristles. There's a lot more bristles than what you get in a filbert,
Yeah,
right?
well, that's why I had a round, so that's what I was using. So works out
Yeah,
good.
but you know what it is I'm almost using my round like a filbert because I push it down
Mhm.
to get that roundness. But
Mhm.
because the round brush holds so much more paint than what a filbert holds. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I actually found a very interesting thing that I did not know is that the majority of the old masters, when you look at the old rose modeling, they almost all used round brushes.
Hmm.
So that was the norm. And I did not know that. So Judith Shenstead was one of our teachers out there. She actually received her gold medal in 81, 82. But I don't think she's in her 70s. But she has tremendous knowledge with this. So she did a lovely presentation during the banquet. And I actually did not realize that all the brushes were rounds. All right, so I'm going back to my medium. And I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. All right, notice I'm pulling that straight line down. The nice thing with this is I just want to cover the space with my color here. So I'm not too worried. See, I'm pulling up color about doing perfect C's or S's right now. I'm more concerned about covering the space. And then I'm going to wipe off my brush. Again, if you find that one color is overwhelming the other, that means you need to wipe your brush and take paint off your brush. But I'm going to go ahead and blend this line here. Okay. I actually find this very satisfying. So now I've got this nice blend, but now the dark is going to overwhelm the medium. So take some paint off there. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and blend. Okay. And little short strokes here, bring it down, blend down into it. Okay, blend down. And don't worry too much if they're not exactly the same. Okay. Nobody's going to notice if one is a little darker or one's a little brighter. Do not worry about it. You want them to be as close as possible, but it does not have to be perfect. Okay, another bingo for Lisa is we're not robots, we're humans. I see Chris laughing in Wyoming. That's fine. Now you're going to think, everybody who's been with me for many classes are now going to think about, well, how many times does Lisa say certain things? All right. At least you know I'm a creature of habit. I'm going to have to trick people and come up with new things. I'm going to throw everybody off. All right. And the nice thing with this is we've got some lovely coverage, right? So go ahead and do it one more time. Again, at your pace. Do not worry if you do not do all 4, but it is lovely that I can show you 4 times. And I'm going to go ahead and do this last one. And again, I am wiping my brush in between. How many people have found that wiping your brush off is helping and taking the paint off? Yep. Right? Instinctually, we think we need to add more paint, and that will solve the problem. So anytime you do that and you're like, why is it turning into mud? That means you need to take paint away. And by mud, it becomes that like grayish tone, like you lose all color with it. It just becomes too overstroked. So you can see why I have little paper towels. My 5.5-month-old puppy has been very good about discovering any of these little squares that I've had around. I think he's eaten about 7 of them so far. So thankfully they digest well. And it's not oil paint, so it's okay. So you should see me chasing him around the yard or around the house. It's never boring. Actually, I was away so much over the month of June that when I got home, my husband picked me up at midnight on Sunday night. I got home at 1. The dog looked at me and didn't quite recognize me. You're like, who are you? That's kind of sad. And then I went to bed at 2, and then I was up at 6 because my son had a trip to a year checkup to the cardiologist. So all's well. He's clear. Everything's good.
Good.
Yeah. Sleep? Who needs sleep?
It's overrated.
It's overrated. There you go. All right, so let's go ahead and get that blend. So there's another bingo. Okay, mentioned one child. All right, we're just going to blend this in. Okay. Again, now what's happening is my dark blue is kind of overwhelming. So I'm going to wipe. And then go ahead and go back and blend this in. And again, if you get to a point, especially my acrylic painters, that you get to the medium blue and it's too dry, that's when you add a little bit of medium blue, or if your dark blue is too dry. My oil painters, that's not an issue. You can blend to your heart's content. The issue that you're going to find is that one color might overwhelm the other. Wipe your brush off in between. Okay. Just super, super important there. Okay. Just blend that out a little bit. How do you like them so far?
Good.
Aren't they nice and bright? All right. I think they're fun. I like them. So. All right. How's everybody doing with them pace wise? You feel comfortable?
Good.
Good. Again, anybody feel rushed or you feel like you can move at a nice pace? Okay. Now again, I repeated 4 times. I am a bit of a fast painter, but I'm going to hold these nice and close so that you can just look at them. Okay. Is the blend between the dark and the medium difficult or fairly easy? Or getting better with each one?
It's so dry is the only problem.
You might need, Barbara, are you working with the acrylics, Barbara?
Yeah, right.
Use a teeny bit of medium.
Okay.
Because I think are you still as hot as you were the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens with acrylic paint dries because of evaporation. So if we have super heat and stuff, it's going to make it evaporate faster. That's when you need a little bit of medium. So if it's drying so fast on you, add a little touch. And I like to say, this is another bingo. Think of putting your toe in the water to check the temperature, how you gently touch it. That's how much medium you use. Just a very teeny amount. But that little teeny amount for your acrylic painters will wake up your paint so that you can get your blend. If you use too much, you will know. How will you know? You will pull the paint that's underneath up.
Oh, no.
It will wipe it away because it wakes it up way too much. Does that make sense? Okay, so so there is a little trick I'll talk about as you're finishing blending before we go to the next section. And I don't necessarily have to do it, but I will demonstrate it. I'm going to do a new YouTube video for, especially for my acrylic painters. I contacted Chroma, Joe Sonia Paints. And though I know a lot about Chroma paints, I wanted to just get a little bit more information about glaze and all of that and drying time. You can, by the way, when you finish a piece, once it's dry, you can varnish that day with acrylics. But you need glaze medium put on first as a barrier coat.
Yep.
The clear glaze medium is very, very important. Even down to the point where I'm going to demonstrate on this, where once we finish this is just my acrylic painters, not my oil painters. My acrylic painters, we can base these strokes that we just did in clear glaze medium to put a barrier coat and then do our stroke work on top of it. So if we need to wipe away, we don't wipe away what's underneath. Okay, so I'm going to show that. Right? All right. How's the pacing for everybody? Pretty good?
I'm good.
Can I ask a
Okay.
question? On
Yes.
the oil colors, yours on the screen looks kind of tealish, but mine's just bright blue. Is that
That's fine. It might be just what's being translated over.
okay? All right.
All right.
That shouldn't be just. It's probably right. Okay.
Yeah. If you find that you want to tone yours down a little, is it too bright?
Well, no, it's just different from yours. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it's acrylic is different than the
It might be.
oil.
It
Yeah.
might be a little different.
All right. That's
All
fine.
right. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lisa, would you repeat, when can we put the glaze over the design?
I'm going to demonstrate.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Thank you, Cheryl. So, and this is an added step that I haven't demonstrated before, but I think it's kind of important for people. Okay. All right. I'll give another couple minutes here just so everybody can feel like they've caught up. How does that sound? And I'll just talk about what we'll do next while everybody's getting ready. So our next step is we're actually going to work on our lightest blue, that whitish blue that we made, and we're going to go ahead and detail this and do our overstroking. So we're actually going to take care of a portion and then finish that portion as we work on it. throughout. This way your detailing is going to be done, because actually the detailing is pretty minimal. The detailing a lot has to do with the actual shape of your flower. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. How many people were able to, or maybe halfway through with your petals?
Done.
How many? All right. How many are done?
Lois.
Oh, good amount done. Okay, good. Done. Okay, great. All right, perfect. All right. So what I'm going to show, this does not apply to oils. Oils, you're not going to have an issue with this right now. But my acrylic painters, for the most part, I have a little bit of a ridge here, but for the most part, my paint is dry, right? You're going to find your paint dries very quickly. You can use a hair dryer for my acrylic painters to dry it. Clear glaze medium, which I'm showing here, right? I'm going to take a small portion of it. I'm actually just going to, hold on, let me back up just a little bit. Let me see if I have another bottle cap. I do. Just going to pour a little bit of my bottle cap here. I shook it beforehand. Okay. So this is a new step for everybody, but you can take a brush. I'll just use a flat brush here. And once it's dry, you can go ahead and notice I'm just doing over the flower itself. I'm not overworking it, but I'm putting a coat of glaze on it. If I overwork it, it might pull my color up, but you can go ahead and take a little bit of glaze, only my acrylic painters, put a coat on here. Okay, before we do the next step, it's just going to protect what you did. Okay, it should dry very quickly. But it's a nice extra step so that if you have to wipe away, you don't wipe up what's underneath. If it's still wet, it will pull up your colors. But again, this dries very quickly. Please feel free to use a hair dryer if needed. Oil painters, just hold tight 1 second. Okay. Again, you can see how quickly I'm only doing the petal. The reason I'm only doing the petal is because I don't want to lose any of my transfer lines from my pattern and wipe that away. Just that. Okay. And then we'll set it aside for a moment.
Is that,
Yes.
depending on what you use for your transfer, you can also lock in your transfer lines.
You can lock in your transfer lines. You may not want to.
No, I mean, you don't want to.
Right. That's correct. Which is why I'm saying just to do your petals.
Well, that's right. But I was just saying.
Yep. So you have to be careful because you don't want to lock in your transfer lines. Okay. All right. All right. So while that's drying it, and it will dry very quickly, I'm just going to come back to my palette here. Okay. I have my light blue mix. I am going to take a portion of this. I'm not taking the whole thing. I have way more than I'm ever going to need, but I'm going to take a small portion and pull off to the side here. This is the same for oils as it is in acrylics. And that small portion, I'm going to add my medium to it, just like I would for my detail paint. Okay, mix this up. So I want a very small portion as my detail paint. The rest I want to leave dry, no medium. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and wipe my palette knife off. Back in the day, I mean, I wipe my palette knife off, but I'm not always perfect about it. And I would go in the 11, 12 years that I took classes from Eldred Arnson at Fletcher Farm School for the Arts and Crafts. She would make me go out and sand off my palette knives because I would have paint on it. Never failed. All right. I am going to put my brush and a wet paper towel, put that aside because I don't need it right now. All right, how's that drying up for everybody? Pretty good? Okay, great. All right, take your detail brush of choice. I've got my 10 knot that I like. I'm going to go ahead and load that with my light blue here that I added the medium to. I'm going to bring the star of the show back here. And now what I'm going to do is outline. I'm just going to go around the edges with my detail brush. And you can do this in pieces here where I'm going to start in here down at the center, whichever works for you. And I'm just going around the outside here. Here's my bump, right? I've got a bump. And then I've come up to the point, right? I've got a bump. We're just going around the outside and we're detailing it. We're doing the outline. And isn't that lovely? We're actually getting some of our detailing done. But this detailing is also going to help us do the overstroking to give that nice Gudbrandsdal turned leaf effect, okay? So I'm going to work my way around each of them. By the way, one of the little tricks when I load my detail brush, you've heard me say this before, I load this up, I do wipe or tap the tip very lightly to take any little bumps of paint off the tip of my brush so that when I lay my brush down, I don't get a clump. So I'm going to go ahead and come around. And notice I'm not worried about doing this in one stroke, okay? Don't worry about it one stroke. We want to make it look like one stroke, but just go ahead and take your time with this. I do move the piece so that I can pull my brush towards me here. Okay. Just moving it around the outside here. Again, at your own pace, I'm going to work my way around all 4 of them. Everybody can work at their pace, however many you get done. All right. Now, one of the keys with the Gudbrandsdal is I want to make sure the base stays nice and thin because the strokes that we're going to pull down towards it is going to overlap some and lay on top of it. Okay. Pull around. We're going to go ahead and do our little bumps here. Okay. I am reloading my brush as needed. It's just off screen. By the way, if at any point I'm not on screen, just let me know. Susan, before I forget, I think you emailed me that you lost the link for the embellishment class. I saw that email. I forgot to email back to you. I will get that to you. You don't have to respond. But as I'm looking at your name here, that just occurred to me. By the way, one of the things when I send out, go ahead, Susan. Let's see if it comes through. I see you're off mute, but I don't know if it will come through. If you're talking, I can't hear you, and I don't know why. Just email me after, okay? Again, when I send out the links for my videos, I suggested to Cynthia while we were away, if in your email you want to put a Lisa section, you know how you can have primary, you can have, you know, promotional, you can have different stuff. You can make a section for Lise Lorentzen emails. So that way you can hold on to your links so they don't disappear on you. Okay.
Oh, that would be good.
Right? I realized that. I was like, how do we hold on to it? Well, if we make another section, then they're just sitting there in that section and you can find them easily. Because sometimes what happens is they just get lost. They're like 17 pages away. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's just the nature of email. I am trying to figure out a better way to share my classes and have it so that it's easier to find the links. So I am working on that. I just need a few more days in the week. When I figure that out, I'll let you know too.
Please do.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. But I'll try my best. All right. All right. How's that going for everybody so far? Pretty good? All right. I see some people are ready. Again, nice thing is you can work at your pace. If all you do is get half of this ready, that's totally fine. All right. No worries. Come here, you. Let me get my screen in. There we go. All right. Just let me know, hands up, to give me a wave to let me know when you're ready. Okay, great. Perfect. Again, for those who were with me in Minneapolis, you know, I did not send out the written portion or give you the written portion of the pattern packet. That will be coming later this week. Sometimes when you're in person, it's easier to have just the color sheets and the line drawing and the instruction from the instructor in person and not get confused by the words itself. And then I send them out.
Oh, you're gonna give us that too?
I am.
Oh, that's nice.
That's coming. The only reason, that's right, you missed that first portion. The only reason I didn't give it out, Barbara, at the beginning of class is sometimes when we go to read the written portion and then the teacher deviates, it gets confusing. So I figured, let's just go by what the teacher says live.
Oh, that's really nice.
Right? Oh yeah, no, so that's coming. Okay. All right. Is everybody ready for the next step?
Mhm.
All right. So you'll notice in the video I sent, or even in the drawing here, if you look at the second photo on the left side of the petal, I did almost a little C-stroke and a little hook. Do you see that little hook on that left side there? This little hook is like when you go bowling and you need bumpers. Okay? Anybody need bumpers when you go bowling, or your grandkids do? Your kids, right?
Me.
So let me show you the bumper. So I'm going back into my detail paint. And I'm looking up at the one away from me. I'm not here at the one closest to me. Okay. I'm looking up at the upper one. Because I've got, you see this C that's in here, this roundness? I want to complete this roundness and come down and do almost a little C. See how I did that? Right? I gave a little hook there. Well, let me go ahead and do that on the opposite side. You might need to turn it a little bit, whatever's the easiest, and give that little C stroke there. Okay, a little hook. Now, by doing that, that protects that dark portion of the petal. So we don't put paint there. Right? If I show you this one, see how I've protected that dark portion is there? That is to help with the illusion of the turned leaf. Okay, so do that for all of them. Just go ahead around and get that little hook in there. Okay, now about 3 years ago, Mari from the Illinois Norse Rosemalling Association asked me to create, oh, I don't like this one so much. I'll fix that one. Asked me to create a Gudbrandsdal pattern for this candle plate. And now I've painted Gudbrandsdal before, but I had to go back and really study it so that I could demonstrate it and explain it. I lost Susan. Where is she? Susan, where are you? Saw you coming back in. Where are you? Try again, Susan. Hope she tries again. Okay. Hopefully she comes back. All right, let me do that again. So I'm going to do a little hook Isn't this nice? You can just go around for all 4 of them and get these little hooks in there, right? It's okay if they get a little bigger on the bottom. Okay. And I'm protecting that dark spot that's up at the top there. Okay. Everybody got that? I'm going to add another little thing to it, just a little one. At the bottom of that little C that I did, I'm almost going to do almost a little C in the opposite direction, a little hook in the opposite direction, just to pull down. Can you see that?
Mhm.
These are just guidelines. Okay. So I'm going to do that again. Okay. Just a little hook. And especially when we're first starting Gudbrandsdal, this just helps to guide our brush. Okay. And you can almost see already how this is going to work. Right? Sorry about that. Don't mean to give people seasickness here. Okay. Can everybody see that okay? Are you starting to see our turn leaf a little bit with this? Just a hint, right? All right. Just let me know when you have those done. Okay. Great. Now, when you're done with that, we're going to go to your smaller round brush. I'm not going to use a detail brush for this next section. Okay. When you're ready, just back up a little, just come at a little angle here. Okay. There we go. Okay, you guys just give me a heads up when you're ready.
Ready.
Ready? For the most part? Okay. All right. So when you're ready, I'm going to go to my smaller round brush. So in my case, I'm using a number 2 here. Okay, there we go. Come on screen. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go back to my paint here. I'm just going to back up a little bit. And I'm going to load with that white that does not have the medium in, that light blue, right? The lightest, no medium. You may need a little touch of the paint with a little medium if your paint is too dry. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to come back here. I'm going to work on the right side of this first petal. And you see there's a V shape that's created by your detail on the outside of your leaf and by that little C that we had. Well, I'm going to take the point of my round brush and I'm going to lay it in there. And then I'm almost doing like a teardrop where I'm going to thick and then thin, and I'm laying it on top of what I detailed. I don't want to lose this thinness. As I bring this down, each stroke is going to overstroke the bottom here and get thinner. Okay, so we've just got like a teardrop. We can do that on the other side too, right? Teardrop and then thin. Okay. Now I might even add, I'm going into this, I might even add a little bit of straight white if I need, just to brighten it up. Mine needs a little brighter. Now what I'm going to do is half on, half off. I'm going to come, meaning, you know, when you mow the lawn, you go half or a quarter over what you mowed already, so you catch everything. This is the idea here. We're going to be a quarter on and then 2/3 or 3/4 off. And I'm going to come down and do another little C stroke here, or a little teardrop. And I'm staying within those lines that I just made, right? half on, half off, and bring them down, and then overlap down at the bottom. See how it's starting to get a little thicker already? Okay. Now I'm going to do this again, but the first two strokes, I'm kind of following a teardrop or a C, right? It has that nice C shape, right? The next one is going to start like it's an S and then go into a C. Well, what do I mean by that? Let me use my hand. I'm going to start like an S. I'm going to push out, and then I'm going to bring it back in and then do a C. See, it has that little bump, right? So let me show you on the piece here. So I'm going in that little hook. I'm going to push the brush out into that hook, but then I'm going to pull it back in and then stroke right back over again. See how it pushed out and then it came back in. It's like, oh, I'm going to go out into the ocean, but no, I'm coming back in. I'm scared. Right? So I'm going to come out into the ocean and then I'm going to come back in and lay right on top again. My analogies are always interesting. Okay. Well, I'm going to do that same stroke again, but I'm going to come down a little step here. I'm going to come out and then push back in and pull it in. Come out on the other side, push out, come back in, and then overstroke. Notice everything is over on top of each other at the bottom. It's really important to keep this thinness down here, because when everything starts to, let me get a piece. When everything starts to stroke next to each other, it becomes too thick, right? But if I stroke it where everything starts at the same place and comes out, it's more elegant. And that's what this is about. I was a little too close. So let me show that again on the next one. The beauty of this is I can show this 4 times. Right? Okay. So once again, I'm going up into that V. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. And I'm pulling almost a C stroke or a teardrop down. Then half on, half off, do it again. A little C stroke down at the bottom. And then the next one goes out like I'm doing an S, but then it comes back in and lays on top of it. Right? Do it another time. Come down just a little step, half on, half off. Again, think of that lawnmower, right? You're overstroking some of what you've done so that you catch any of those stray blades of grass. Well, here we overdo that so that we make sure we cover everything. And do that on the other side. Up into the point and bring down. Do that again, over. Now, the nice thing is once we've learned this on this first one, when we do our green leaves, this technique doesn't change. It's the same technique just over and over again. And notice now that you looks like you're getting that 3D effect, right? With the turn leaves. If I hadn't taken the time to do all that coating underneath, this wouldn't have that nice look. All right. Let's do that again. How's that working for everybody? Good. Good. Is how I'm explaining it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is that breaking it down fairly well? All right. How are my oil painters doing with this? Carol.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's working, but the effect with the oils is a little different because you end up dragging or some of the
Right.
you're bringing some of the back color with your strokes.
So what I would suggest with that, for each stroke, wipe your brush in between
Okay,
and reload a little with that white tone,
okay,
because what's happening is your brush is picking up that undercolor
it is, yeah,
and then it's mixing. So each time you do a new stroke, wipe in between
okay,
and see if that helps.
okay,
All right.
thanks.
You're welcome. See, I didn't forget my oil painters. You need to come back. But Carol, when you do that, let me know how it works. All right, perfect. So again, for anybody, when you feel like you're getting a little muddiness or you're pulling up too much color, and sometimes with acrylics, we're working wet on wet, it's the same idea. Okay. So again, in that V, pull down. Is it helping to have that bumper first? Mm-hmm. It just kind of gives a little bit of a guide.
It's a nice technique.
Thank you.
Hmm.
And again, when I was looking at it myself and breaking it down, it's how do you break it down in such a way to teach it that it makes sense? Right?
You did a good job.
Thank you. I try. There's days. So, for those who don't know, I was actually a GED special ed teacher for New York City for over 10 years. So I am a teacher by profession. And teaching special ed makes it interesting, especially resource room, because I usually had 5 to 8 different learning styles. So you're constantly changing your teaching style. So it was never boring. And when I first started doing that, they were like, they didn't want to come to me. And I'm like, well, I teach math, which was my worst subject, by the way. But the students were like, oh, I need help with math. I'm like, yep, there you go. So, okay. Isn't it nice how all of a sudden you get that effect of the turned leaves? That 3D is showing up on you. Carol, how is that working?
It's working a lot better.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure. All right. Nice thing is I have a fourth one here. I'll just show that. Is it helping that to see me do it over and over again?
Yes.
Fabulous. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I also took the candle plate
Yes, you did.
a couple of times because I was a slow learner with it. I did the class 6 times. I paid for 2. And Lisa felt pity because I wanted to do it so badly and it just didn't click. And she said, here, just do it.
Yep. Well, thank God for those videos.
Yes, because that's brilliant.
Yep.
Because I have a show coming up in December and I did the candle plate and it's really pretty.
Yay. That makes
So it
me
lived
happy.
on. Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
I love the candle plate too.
Oh, yeah. My daughter has 2 of them for practice because I just like, no, I'm going to get this. And she took 2.
I'll show the candle plate later for those who haven't seen it before.
Please do. So.
Yeah,
I
I'll
did
pull it
it
out
on
later.
a clock too. It was nice on a clock.
Oh yeah, you did do it on the clock. That's right.
Oh, Barbara, see that sometime.
I'm going to show that.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and by the way, we're going to finish this. We're actually going to do so a little different than how I put it out in written form. Okay. But when we finish these 4 blue flowers on the inside, we're going to take care of the 4 blue flowers on the outside, so that all our blue is done. My oil painters just have to be careful they don't put their hands in it.
Oh, okay.
But we've done that before, so it's okay. Right? How does that feel for everybody? Pretty good?
It feels, yeah, it's good. Totally.
Fabulous. And then just let me know when you're at a point where I can show you the detail inside. Just a show of hands when people are ready.
Ready.
Okay, great. Fabulous. Okay.
The
So-
overturned leaves really highlight how asymmetrical my bases were. Which is fun.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's great. Learning moment.
Oh, you know what?
Mhm.
That's okay. That's all good. That's how we learn, right?
Mhm.
But the nice thing is, remember too, when we're sitting on top of it, we're very conscientious and really hyper fixated on what we're looking at. When it's all said and done, we're not going to be that hyper fixated. When you come back tomorrow, it's going to be like the little Nissa. The Norwegian Nissa are going to come out and fix it, yeah.
Mhm. That's
I
right.
hope so.
Yeah. So, all right. The detail on this, notice really all your detail is done, right? The majority of it. That what's left is actually a thin, thick, thin line down the center and two sidelines, all right? Let me show that. I'm going to go ahead and load my brush with my detail brush with the light blue. Now I'm going to airbrush a line first. It's kind of like a golfer when they're practicing their stroke before they take that stroke, right? I'm just going to practice first. Then I'm going to come down for a landing and go very light. And then I'm going to push heavier. And then I'm going to push light and head for the tip. And that's it. And then I'm going to come to one side and do a curved line and the other side and do a curved line. Pretty simple, right? There's a little more to it, but I'll come back to it. Once you do that first one, do a quarter turn. Go ahead and do your next one. Thin, thick, thin. Okay. A curved line on one side and a curved line on the other. Now remember, your curved lines, they're all coming down to that central point here as close as possible because it's like there's a sepal at the bottom there. Okay. Do a quarter turn. We're going to do thin, thick, thin. Quarter, do a curved line, curved line. Don't worry if they don't match perfectly. That one did not match. I'm going to ignore it. My oil painters, you want to make sure that detail paint is wet enough that it flows over your wet paint. Okay. And again, airbrush here. Does it help to practice a few times in the air before you come for a landing?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So then come down for that landing. All right. And now what I did was I just did some straight lines at the top and some straight lines at the bottom to connect it.
Okay.
See those straight lines I did?
Oh,
Pretty simple detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Straight lines, straight lines, straight lines, straight lines, okay? Straight lines, straight lines. Hold that nice and close. How does that? Okay. Easy peasy. Now I'm going to say we're about an hour and a half in. I'm going to do the next blue ones. Does anybody want to take a few minute break to do the bathroom, get something to drink or anything like that? All right. I'm going to pause for 5 minutes so that we can get up and stretch, go to the bathroom. Hold on, let me do that. There we go. All right. How's that going for everybody?
Good.
Okay, good. All right, we're going to continue with our blue because we're going to get that in because we have some nice And then the green's going to come, I promise. But we have some nice scrolls that we're going to get in, our blue scrolls here. They're nice C strokes that are in dark blue. We're going to pull them in. They're very simple with some other lighter blue strokes on there, and then our outer blue flowers. And then we're going to tuck in our green leaves. Hold on one second. My camera went sideways. Hold on. Hello there. Let's get that right. There we go. That's better. So you get the full screen. Okay. All right. So let's take out our larger round brush that you were using. I had suggested a 3, but whatever works for you. And I'm going to paint that I have on there. Hold on, my recording is catching up. Let's go ahead and load with our dark blue. Okay. And I have this right here. I'm going to take the original right next to it. So can you see there's a nice C stroke? And notice how thin it gets. All right. It's thicker at the top and thin. We're going to let it fade out because our green leaves are going to come in. So I'm going to start now. If you're right-handed, you tend to have an easier time starting with the stroke that's going from left to right. If anybody's left-handed, you might have an easier time going from right to left. But I'm going to go ahead and take the tip. Again, I'm using a round brush, so I'm using the roundness of the brush to get this tip and fill in the top. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that C stroke down, and I'm taking the pressure off my bristles to get nice and thin. Okay, now my blue paint is getting very loose. I think my palette is a little wetter than I'd like, but that's okay. I'll make that work. Okay, so we got that nice C stroke there. Ooh, I think I made that too big. Hold on. Hold the phone, everybody.
Is that medium blue instead?
That's the,
Hold on. I made a mistake. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I'm wiping that away. The blue that I'm using is dark blue, but I just realized that my stroke is a little smaller. I'm going to show where.
Yeah.
It's coming down lower and then coming in.
Oh.
Okay. So I apologize for that because actually it's going to be a medium blue that's going to come up higher. I made a boo-boo. Imagine that. Ken, I made a boo-boo.
Boo, boo, boo.
Boo, boo, boo. I got a tea delivery. Thank you, dear.
I would deliver one to everybody else, but it won't fit through the little holes in the microphone.
Yeah. Thank you for considering that.
It was a nice thought in you.
Right? It was a nice thought. All right. So it's the lower C, not the taller C. I made the boo-boo because actually the taller C is going to have a medium blue come off of it. Don't do the taller C yet. Notice I'm actually going to do a quarter turn and do the same shape. I'm not going to do the other side yet. I'm going to come around and do the same shape. It's the lower C coming down. Because sometimes it's just easier when you have a repeating stroke on a pattern that is symmetrical. It's easier to keep painting that same shape the 4 times before flipping to the other side. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and push down and pull this stroke in and let that lay right on the back there. There's smaller little C strokes there. Okay. And can you see how that's a little easier to repeat that same stroke over again? You're in that process. Once you get the 4 in one direction, go ahead and switch to the opposite. Doesn't that look like a nice spiral right now? I could spin that around, right? So now I want the opposite direction. So I'm just going to match it and go in the opposite. How many times can I say opposite in 30 seconds? Apparently quite a few. Oh, sorry. Oh, so annoying. A couple, I guess 3 weeks ago when this started, my younger daughter was on the phone with her boyfriend, and then she came down and saw me. She's like, "Mother, you look like death."
Oh, no.
I know, because I was like on the sofa with the hoodie of my sweatshirt over my head, just wrapped up, and he's like, "That's mean." And she's like, "Let me show you." And he's like, "Oh." He's like, "Oh, you're looking a little rough there, Miss Lisa." I'm like, "Yep, just a little." All right. So again, we're going to repeat this 4 times. Right. That is the lovely thing about a symmetrical pattern. It gets to repeat. And the nice thing with these strokes is they cover a lot of territory. In the acrylics and oils, the blue, though, as we know, some colors take more coats to cover. The nice thing is blue tends to cover quite nicely right away. Sorry that I came a little bit out of screen. Let me come back into screen there. Okay. Not too bad, right? Okay. Once you get those dark blue strokes off, then you're going to wipe off your brush, and when you're ready, you'll load with the medium blue. No medium. The middle value of blue, but no medium on there. Okay. Okay. How's everybody doing on this? So far, so good?
A little slow.
That's okay. Take your time, Astrid. Again, the nice thing with this is this repeats. So even if you don't do the whole thing with me, you can do it later. Work at your own pace. I want to make it soothing, not overwhelming. How many times have we been in a class and overwhelmed? I've been there. Katie, is everybody in bed at this point?
No, they just got back from the pool, and my oldest daughter's making pancakes for everybody.
Nice.
Yeah. Night swimming on a hot day is actually pretty great. So,
No, that's awesome. And I forget school's out, so there you go.
Yep.
We're done. Fabulous. All right, so your medium blue now. This is where that upper C stroke that kind of lays off the back of the dark blue. We're going to turn a little bit. I'm just going to pull that lighter blue, that medium blue, and it's going to lay right on the top. You see, it's almost like a giant, we don't like this word in rosemalling. It's like a comma stroke. That's a dirty word in rosemalling. We call them C strokes, right? But those of my decorative artists out there, isn't that a comma? That's coming off the top, right? Think of it that way. When you're in rosemalling classes, though, we say a C stroke. Okay? That's also going to be on the bingo card. Just saying. Give it a little quarter turn. This stroke repeats itself for each of those blue C strokes we did. So now you just get to repeat that same thing, and look how much territory we are covering. Right? Isn't it nice that not everything is a turned leaf? All right. Sometimes we just have these nice strokes that repeat themselves. All right. I'll do that again. And pull down. All right. And once you complete it in one direction, go ahead and repeat that in the opposite direction. It's the same stroke, just reversed. Okay. Just trying to not to get my brush here. Now, one of the things when I'm getting that little knob there, by the way, when I lay my brush down, the head of my bristles are actually, if I'm going to the left here, the bristles are facing not straight down, but at a little angle to the left, so that I give it a little spin, flatten out, it gets that roundness, and then I can pull this over the top here. Okay. Let me just pull this back a little bit. I am hitting my camera with my brush, so that's why it's a little rock and roll here. Okay. Do this again. And pull down. And again, tomorrow, by the way, remember, you don't have to do all these strokes with me. You will receive the video, so you can watch all of this over again. You will have access to this video for a year. Isn't that nice? And you can just keep pulling it up and looking at it. But this is where, if in your emails, if you make a little section for Lise Lorentzen emails, then you can tuck those in there so you don't lose the codes for them. Right? Ooh, sorry about that. Totally knocking into my camera. Right? And isn't that nice color balance? It balances those 4 petals in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. And it actually has, at the very top, you'll see into this top region here, there is an S stroke that comes down. Sorry, keep on knocking my camera. There's an S stroke that comes down off the back. It just reaches up into this upper region of my ornament here. And down, right? Just balancing that color. Right. Now, I'm going to hold off on the detailing of this. It's very simple, but we'll come back to it a little later. We just want to get these strokes in here. How's that feeling for everybody? Pretty good? Everybody can see it okay?
Yeah.
Ah. That was a sigh of earth.
Wrong color.
I've done that.
Oh yeah.
On that piece there, it looks like you've done some darker around the edges, sort of antiqued it.
Ones? Yeah, so we did. I'm gonna talk about that though. We can do that afterwards.
Okay. Oh, okay.
All right. So
Yep.
we can come in and do a little bit. So I'm going to show 2 ways where you can do it after you've painted it. And then I'm going to send out a little video before Thursday night of how to antique it before you put your pattern on. So you can do that. So I'm going to show 2 ways. How does that sound, Carla? Okay. Sometimes it's just nice to see a little video for it. So that will come out tomorrow. Okay, perfect. And just write a note. So I make sure I get all my videos out. Okay. That feel okay for everybody? All right. So before we move on to greens, since we still have blues on our brush, right? There is our blue little flowers out on the outer outskirts here, right? Aren't they very similar to what we did to our green? Now, I'm not going to do them yet. I'm going to wait until after because I want to make sure I spend time on the green. Because we've done the blue already, we're familiar with them. So we're going to come back to these. Okay? So hold them to the side. And we're going to focus on green right now and get those tucked in there. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So the larger of your brushes, the number 3 or whichever you're the most comfortable with, we're going to use that. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and add our green tones to our palette. So I'm just going to take this aside right now. Now, I suggested for my acrylic painters, Hooker's Green and Citron, right? But if you don't have Citron, I think we can get away with taking Hooker's Green and mixing it with yellow oxide to get that lighter tone. My oil painters, I suggested Prussian green and then either olive green, Indian yellow. So we'll play around with that a little bit and see how that works. So we want a darker green and a lighter green. So let's go ahead and put down our Hooker's Green. And the nice thing with this is I can actually use my, if I need a darker tone or need to darken the edge of this, I can use my Prussian blue with this. Okay. So I've got my darker green, which is the Hooker's Green. I'm going to add just a little bit more because I'm going to do an example here. Hold on. I shall put a little pile. Okay. And then I have this Citron, or that is my lighter green. Now, greens are interesting because sometimes they don't cover as well in acrylics as they do with oils. We might need to layer. But I think you might be able to get away if you don't have that color. I suggested to take some of the Hooker's Green and yellow oxide, about 1-to-1, mix that together. And that will make that lighter green tone. So we want a dark green and a light green. That's really the most important portion of this, dark and light, okay? Now, I am going to take a little bit of this, whatever this lighter green is, whether the Citron or that yellow oxide or yellow ochre mix with your dark green, and I'm going to add some white to it. And this is going to be my overstroking color, my detail color. I want more white than green because remember I'm toning it down. Okay. I can tone this with yellow ochre or yellow oxide as well. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit extra off of that.
So that's Hooker's Green and I'm sorry.
So this is, first I did straight Hooker's Green.
Yeah.
And then I did, for my lighter tone, if I didn't have the Citron, I did Hooker's Green with yellow oxide.
Okay.
Okay.
Then the next one?
I took a small portion of that and added white to it to make my toned down white. Because remember, when we do our detail, if we use straight white, it's going to be too bright. So I want to tone it down, and I want to tone it down with whatever, whether it's a yellow oxide or that green tone, so then it blends into the stroke work, but it just tones it down that little bit. Does that make sense?
Lisa, can you clarify? You're doing 3 shades, right? So Hooker's,
Yep.
then a
A
mix,
light
a mix of hookers and citron, and then
let me explain again. For those who didn't have citron,
but
if
if you
you
do have citron, where are we at?
leave the straight from the tube.
And then what's the lightest color then if we do have citron?
If you do have citron, take some of
Sorry.
that citron and your white. Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, okay, sorry, thank you.
So so citron is a lot more yellow than your medium green that you've mixed.
It is. I'm
Okay.
going to add a little bit more yellow oxide to that.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So we
Okay.
want the yellow.
I wanted a little bit more yellow because I want that contrast. Because
Okay.
remember, we're going to blend in much. Ooh, that was way too much. Isn't it amazing how it just explodes on you? You want it to blend in, but when we do these leaves, most of it's going to be the darker green. I have way more lighter green than I'm ever going to need. Because much like the blue, when we did the blending of the dark blue and the medium blue, remember we need that dark portion to overstroke. And if you notice, if you look at this, see how dark it still is? And it's just a little bit of the light. Does that make sense?
Yep.
The dark is very important. The light is not quite as important, but you want it to make it so it's nice on the eyes and that it blends in. And this was because I know not everybody has that citron, right? And I will add that. So one thing I want to note, when I put my pattern packets, and some of you have heard me say this together, when I put my pattern packets together, a lot of times when I teach the class, it's the first time I'm teaching the class. So sometimes you're my guinea pigs with it. So if you find a mistake or if there's an adjustment I need to make, just make sure and note it for me. You can email me, just remind me so I can adjust it on my pattern packet too. How's that? I'm not perfect. Never claimed to be. It's not going to happen. That's really overwhelming, right? To try to be perfect. Okay. All right. So first thing we're going to do. Everybody good? Your lightest color here. This is going to be our detail color and stuff. We do have to take a little aside to add medium. I'm going to hold off for a second. But this mid-value tone, whether it's the citron or it's the yellow oxide, yellow ochre with your dark color. Go ahead and load your largest brush. I'm using a 3. Mine still has blue on it, so I'm going to get the blue off. Okay. But I'm going to load my brush with that. And you're going to notice that underneath, hold on, let me find my original. Where did it go? Well, I'll go for this. Oh, there it is.
So we're using the citron to clarify?
We're using the citron. It's
Okay,
either the citron or whatever your lightest if you don't. Do you see there's a little C stroke that's coming in? We're going to paint in our little C stroke first on each of these. So we're going to go in with your citron or that mix that you did to match the citron as close as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and paint my C stroke. You see how I have that little C stroke there? And actually, hopefully your coverage is fairly good. And I'm going to repeat that 4 times in one direction. Notice that the end of these little C strokes or comma strokes for my decorative painters, dirty word, are going into the V that goes in between our petals here. Okay. Again, I'm going to go in 4 in one direction. And then I'm going to do 4 in the opposite direction. And I have a fair, if you look at my brush, look how much paint I have on this brush, right? That's a lot of paint, right? That I put on that brush. I didn't just dip it in. I did go ahead and really load this. right? You want to load your brush up there. Right? Once you do the 4 in one direction, go ahead and do the 4 in the opposite direction.
Ori, no.
Oh, Lynn, are you getting help?
I am.
Funny how that happens. 4 in the opposite direction. Okay.
And that's with citron.
Yes. And again, for those who didn't have it, that's why I did that mix. Okay. But it should be fairly good coverage. Is everybody finding that's covering fairly well?
Yep.
Okay,
Actually, mine is more transparent than
Yeah,
others.
mine looks terrible. Very
Yeah,
transparent.
Is that with the citron?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So try to do a little of the hooker green with yellow oxide and see if that's better. Because sometimes the citron can be a little too transparent.
Okay, what do we put in that, Lisa?
I would take the hooker's green
Okay.
and some yellow oxide.
Yellow oxide.
Try that combination a little bit and see if your coverage is better.
Or do we do 2 coats, Lisa, of the citron?
You can do 2 coats of the citron as well.
Okay.
Yep.
I cheated and I just put a little hooker's green in the citron, and that seems to be helping.
Oh.
Perfect. There you go. That's perfect. Experimentation is key. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, did that help? Like I said, I will tell everybody I am not the foremost authority. I'm all I know. I'm always learning, and I love when people chime in.
Bingo!
Yeah. There you go. See, you heard it. I repeat myself.
Yeah, a little hooker's green goes a long way.
Awesome.
Not as much as Prussian blue, but oh boy,
Yep.
it's strong.
It is strong. That's why we're going to be careful when we go to use it next, which we are going to use it next. Did that help with the coverage of those little C's?
Yep.
Yeah, the hunters really helps.
Good, 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 good.
Lisa, did you do yours in the hooker's green and the yellow oxide?
I did. I actually had the citron and then I tipped into it because it was there.
Okay, because I did mine citron and it's an ugly color.
Yeah, try that. Try the citron, dip into the hooker's green.
Okay.
And see if that helps.
Okay. Well, I got a couple coats on, so it's pretty opaque. It's just doesn't show up.
If you don't like it, tip it into the hooker's green and tone it with that.
Okay.
All right.
No.
That's the nice thing here is we can mix on our brush, right?
Mm-hmm.
And adjust the color so you like it because you want to like it. Just because I suggested, and if it comes out and you're like, ugh, play around with it. Right? I have no problem with that. All right, I'm coming over it. Okay. How is it? A little better now?
A lot better.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to wipe off my brush. Just take a little of the green off. I'm going into my hooker's green. Just straight hooker's green right now. And now what I'm going to do is on the outside edge, the longer edge of my green leaves that are next. So let me pull this up. So I've got my 2 little C's here. And I've got a green leaf now. I'm going to go ahead and paint in the outside edge of this. It's a C stroke. and then an S stroke. It's 2 strokes to get that leaf shape there, right? A C and S. And then I'm going to go ahead and cover about 2/3 of my leaf. Okay, I'm going to cover 2/3. The hooker's green should cover pretty well. Okay, not the whole thing. I want to leave a little space to put that lighter green. Now you can leave some of that hooker's green on your brush and go into the citron. Or if you've got that yellow oxide hooker's green mix, use that, whatever your medium tone is. And then we're going to do the other side of the leaf and get those bumps in there, right? So it's a S stroke, a couple of bumps. You're going to go right next to your dark line. And then you're going to wipe off your brush and then go ahead and blend that line in between so that we get a dark to a light. So much like what we did with our blue flowers, we're going to go ahead and do with our green leaves here. I had to wipe my brush off if my dark green was going off on me. And we're going to get a blend here. Now, we don't want to lose the dark portion. We want more dark than light. Okay. There we go. You see how that looks? I'm holding that up nice and close. Does that work for everybody to see? Right. This should be fairly transparent, not transparent, opaque. Okay. I'm going to show that again. I'm going to do my dark. Portion of this, it's a C and an S. And then fill this in. I leave a small portion open. Wipe off your brush. Go into your middle tone. All right. And go ahead and do that S stroke, and there's a couple little bumps. Wipe off your brush and blend this out. Now, looking at the time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on 2 sets of leaves here. So I'm going to get these 2 done. If you're moving faster, go ahead and move faster. But I'm going to do the matching one on the opposite side here. And I'm going to leave half of it alone and just take care of the half of the leaves here. And come in the opposite direction. And I'm going to repeat the process. And do a bump. So a C stroke and an S. Some S's here. All right. And again, it's very similar process to what we were doing with the blues. You want your dark and your medium, and then you want to blend them together. And this is giving the background for our pulled leaves here that we're going to do. Okay. Just pulling these in. Remember, if it starts to get muddy or one color is overwhelming the other, make sure to wipe off your brush on a piece of paper towel here. Mine needed some more dark tone, so I came back into my dark, just blending that in. Okay. Again, don't worry to make about making everyone exactly the same. You want it similar, but it doesn't have to be perfectly the same. We're gonna do that again. With your S. All right. And then come back with your lighter tone. Okay, go ahead and blend this in. Blend them together. Wipe your brush off as needed. I added a little more darker tone. How is that blend going for everybody?
Good.
Good. Okay. Again, if it dries out on you, if for acrylics, you can add a little bit of medium to it. All right. So I'm just going to focus on 4 of them. I'm not going to worry about doing them all. You're moving faster. You certainly can do them. But I want to make sure and show how to do the turned leaves on these. Because this one has a double. It's turned on both sides. Okay. Once this dries on you, anybody with the acrylic, you can put a coat of glaze on it if you want. I'm just going to hold these up nice and close so you can see them. Wasn't it nice to already have that lighter tone done in the C stroke though? Because you can blend right down into it. Okay. How's that feeling for everybody? You
Much
good?
better.
Better?
Better than the flower.
Okay. That's all right. We'll take it. The nice thing, this covers a lot of space too. All right.
Wow. It's coming alive.
Yay. It's like, oh. All right. We give that nice sound there.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to just work on half of it. Okay. Now, for many years now, I've worked without adding the glaze on it. So I can continue that, but I think it's great if it dries nice and quick for you to put that layer of glaze from my acrylic painters. Just so it adds a little coat of protection. All right, makes it easy to pull your paint. And you guys just let me know when you have that squared away. It's funny, I always think that 3 hours, it goes much faster than I think it's going to go. Crazy. We still have time though, fortunately. Thank goodness. All right. You guys just let me know when you feel like you've got those kind of squared away. Ugh. This is 3.5 weeks of coughing. Oof. Imagine if they didn't give me antibiotics.
Oh.
Yeah. Wasn't pretty. Oof. All right. How's that feeling, everybody?
Good.
Good.
Did you teach with that cough?
I was coughing a little bit when I was out there.
I
Yep.
didn't notice it though.
No, all of a sudden it would just come on in little spasms and then I could keep it in control for a while.
Ah,
So it was just it's at the point where it's just annoying.
yeah.
I'm not really sick. It's just all of a sudden you get that, that tickle and that dry, and then you can't stop it. So
We've been so busy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all good. And a trip to Florida in between. A family trip to Universal. So, all right, when you're ready, we do want to take a small portion of that white green here that we made. Hold on, let me make sure that it's in screen. I'm going to take a small portion of this. That's going to be your detail color. Right? So we want to pull that aside and add some medium to it. Same for acrylics and oils. Make your detail paint here. Okay. This is going to be very same procedure that we did. Okay. Mix that up. Okay. So that it's all ready there. By the way, I do keep a little bit of my straight white available just in case I need to. If it seems too toned down, I can add a little bit of my straight white in there if I need. But I'm going to go ahead back to my detail brush, make sure it is clean. I'm going to go ahead and load with that toned down white here. Okay. I'll come back to my piece. And I'm going to outline my leaf. That's the first thing I'm going to do. So we typically don't say that we outline in rosemalling, but with Gudbrandsdal, that will help us. So I want to go ahead and come around the outside of my leaf here. And notice that was a very toned down. You can see how toned down that green, that white is, right? With the green in it. Look how bright it looks. Mm-hmm. It looks like straight white, right? But it's toned down. If I went straight white, it would be like, you know. But I want to go ahead and go around the outside of my leaves here. Get my bumps. And while you're here, you can also just go around your little C stroke here that was at the base. Detail that with a little bit of that toned white here. Just going to go ahead. Okay. And come around the other one. Okay. We're just outlining. Again, a bit of a dirty word. We never really say that we're outlining, we're detailing. But to help with this Gudbrandsdal, we need to outline. Okay. Come around the other side here and I'll get my C. And then once we get our outlining, we're going to put those little hooks in. Okay. So I just have 4 of them I'm doing. You can go ahead around my little C stroke here. Give it a little detail line. Because that's all that one's getting is just a little stroke around the outside of it. A little detail. Okay. And then around the last one here. Okay. And around our bumps. Okay, get our bumps there. And already it's making a difference. It's making a jump, right? Just that little bit. Okay. Isn't that nice? Makes it jump. Look at that difference it makes, right? Oops, don't you dare flip on me here. Okay. How's that looking for everybody?
Pretty.
Ready? Not bad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys just let me know. The nice thing with this, with a repetitive pattern, and the fact that you can go around and do these steps where you can repeat and just outline around each of your steps. It kind of, one, cements what you're doing, and two, speeds it along a little bit, right? Once you're done with that, we're going to paint in those hooks. Remember the hooks we did on the blue? We're going to do the same with the green. And again, for my oil painters, when we do this next step, make sure to wipe off the tip of your brush as we're going. Okay, so you take off some of that paint. Okay, and you just let me know when you're ready. Again, no rush. Mhm.
Lisa, do you hold your brush real up and down when you're detailing?
It depends. So for when I'm doing this, I tend to come in more of a 45-degree angle a lot of times. And then I might start more up and down, and then as I pull, come down to that angle. Right?
That's what I thought I was seeing. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And especially when I get down to my teardrops, then I'm really at a 45. But typically I start up and down, and then as I pull, I might lean more towards a 45-degree angle, or I might reach out ahead of me and start at the 45. And as I pull towards me, then I'm heading straight up and down. That might be more like it. Okay. Thank you for asking, because sometimes I do things so repetitively that I don't really realize how I'm doing it. So when you ask me, then I have to think it out, and that's great.
I had another instructor who only uses oils say that she's almost always straight on the paper, and I struggle with that. So it's always great to hear it's done so many different ways.
It is, and that is really important to emphasize. There's more than one way to do this. And I've said, okay, this is going to be a bingo. Every time you take a class with a different teacher, and I encourage to take classes with different teachers, you pick up little tidbits that work for you. It's like adding a tool to your toolbox. Not everything that one teacher does might fit for you, but a little piece here and a little piece there. And if a teacher tells you, no, this is the only way, I strongly disagree. Okay. More than one way to get there. All right. You ready for the little hooks?
Yes.
All right. So I have, and I'll show it 4 times here. So I've got my one leaf here. It's facing away from me. Let me just bring this over. Notice the flip is on both sides now. See, this is a double-headed flip. Overstroking. You see it? Okay. It's also on your sample here. So we need to put 2 hooks in, and we want to keep this darkness again, right? So my first hook is on the right-hand side. I want to go ahead and pull that little bit of a hook. Maybe not quite as rounded. Anybody know why I don't want to do it as rounded?
Narrow face.
Well, because this stroke was very round, I want this one to be rounded. This is more elongated, right? So I want my hook to almost be a little bit elongated and come down and then give another loop, right? Because it fits the shape of the leaf. Does that make sense? Right? The same on the other side here. So I'm going to do another one, but notice how elongated this is. So the little bit of a hook is going to come down a little further, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it fits the shape of the leaf. Let's do that again, just so you get the practice, right? So I'm just going to flip it over here. Again, I want to follow the shape of my leaf and make it a little bit elongated. Give that little hook. And then the same on the other side. And again, these are our bumpers, right? And what I'm showing you here, this is the meat and potatoes of Gudbrandsdal. This is what we're looking for, right? It's this turned leaf. Our pulled strokes and everything like that, we can take care of later. But this is what we really want to focus on. Well, do that again, however many you have done. It's a little bit more elongated and a little hook down. Now, does every teacher who teaches Gudbrandsdal show this? Not necessarily. But this is the way that I have figured out how to teach this and give you a little guide. Again, it's those bumpers in bowling. Keeps the ball on the alley. All right. And one more time. And then we're going to fill it in and get those curved leaves there. And again, when you look at old rose malling or even current rose malling, we each have a slightly different feel for it. So there's other people that might have a slightly different feel for the Gudbrandsdal. But again, this is how I figured out to get those turned leaves in there. And once you get that done, then go to your smaller round brush. And we're going to load that up. And then let's make some magic happen. Let me pull this up nice and close so you can see them. How's that? Is that good for seeing the little hooks there? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, when we do these, the trick again is it's going to be wider on the top and skinnier at the bottom. What do I mean by that? Well, when I pull my strokes down, I want them to get thinner, so they're going to lay on top of each other. If this ends up losing this color, that loses the elegance. It loses the effect of 3D. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and load my round brush in my lightest green tone, that white green without medium in it. Okay? Not the detail green, just the straight green here. Okay. Make sure everybody can see this. You ready? Okay, remember how I did that first stroke in that little V shape that's created when we do that hook? It's almost like we're going to do a C stroke here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm following the shape of the leaf. So I'm going to push down and lift up, and I'm going over the detail stroke I did, that outline. Okay, there's my first one. So starts a little thicker and then gets nice and thin. I'm going to do a second stroke, a little step down because I'm following the hook. So the hook is forcing me to come a little lower. And I'm going to follow that same stroke and then over stroke. Nice and thin there. That's 2 strokes so far. See how far I've come? Okay. Now, I'm going to come down again, and there's that little bit of a lip. But this time, remember we made that little S, but then we went right back into a C? I kind of push the head out of the brush and then pull it back in and right back on top of the strokes I did. Again, I use that hook to help me. You see that? Now, again, if we didn't do this blending underneath, it wouldn't look right. That's why we have to do it. Now, I'm going to come down just a little bit, maybe an eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch, and then think of that lawnmower, half on, half on. I'm going to go over there, do that little push out for an S, but I'm going to come right back in and overstroke. And there's my last little bump on this side. Okay. Let's go ahead and repeat that same stroke. Okay. Let's do, I'm going to save this inner one first. Let's do that same stroke on the opposite leaf here. Okay. They're back to each other. Load your brush as needed. Okay. The first stroke goes in that little V shape that's up there. I'm going to go ahead and put almost like a little teardrop, thick to thin, pulling that down. And these strokes go into that V shape. I'm using that bumper. I'm going to do it again. Use the bumper to help me to get that next teardrop or C. And then they go over each other at the end here. Then a little step down. This is when I'm going to pull my brush out like I'm going to do an S, but I'm going to bring it right back on top of what I did. It's almost like a little bump. And then, nope, I'm repeating. Does that make sense? That little bump out and then back over to what you did? Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be another bingo. Does that make sense? I say that all the time, right? Okay, do it again. A little bump and then back over. There we go.
Too fuzzy.
Oh, thank you, Astrid. How's that?
Yeah.
That
thank
good?
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, sometimes it gets too close and it goes out of focus. I'm like, let me give a really close shot, and then nobody can see it. How do you like that? Good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we'll do the other side of the leaf. How does that sound? I'll give everybody a second here. My oil painters, is that working with wiping the brush in between?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's like I said, that's why I have a ton of little pieces of paper towels with little paint marks on them.
Lisa, so you don't have any bumps on the top of that? You only have just those two bumps?
I'm just having those two bumps, like up. Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Sometimes you can fit more, but when it's a little tight, you don't want to overwhelm it.
Okay.
Does that make sense? There it is again. Bingo.
Yep.
And that is also because when we do this other side here, right? So let me show that. You ready for the inside of this? Okay. This time here where we had the roundness of the leaf, it kind of leads to that C stroke, right? We have the inside of it. So it's slightly different where we need to follow this shape where it's going to actually go thin, thick, and then thin again. Just so I can fill this in and get this little curve. Again, using that bumper, but all it will need is one stroke for the bumper. Right? But it still needs a bump. Because it doesn't look complete. It doesn't quite have that 3D. So this time I'm going to come down just a half a step here from this point here where the hook ended. And I'm half on, half off. I'm going to push down and I'm going to give a little bump and then pull it almost right away on top of what I already stroked. So it's like a little bump out and then back in. You might be able to fit in a teeny one under that, but really small, bump out and bump in. But I don't want to add too much because I don't want to lose this little channel of green, which is why I didn't bump on the other side another time. Because then we will lose that green. Isn't that fun?
No. Not yet.
Not yet. That's funny. Nope, not yet. Not there yet. Key again, make sure the strokes lay on top of each other near the bottom. Okay, nice and skinny. Well, let me show that again on the other side here. Uh-oh, I hear those giggles.
That was funny.
It could be good giggles or bad giggles. Not
No,
sure.
I'm just still laughing about not yet.
All right. Oh, this is not an easy style. It's not. And it does take practice to get these little strokes. And they're not big. Again, I'm using my bumper to do this almost teardrop here. And this one is almost too tight, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just put a little bump at the top there and then pull it right back on top of it. That might be all I can fit. I still have that channel of color. Because you know when you look at a leaf and it starts to curl in on either side? That's what this is doing. Are the hooks helping?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because that's the other hard thing. When we get a pattern and you have something like this with the turn leaves and you get the pattern, you're like, wait a second, why aren't the turns put on there? Right? I'm sure you went, well, how am I supposed to do that? Well, this is where we layer on top of it, right? But again, imagine if you were trying to blend this and blend up to lines here and make it look natural and not cover that space. Would it have worked? We have to have the full blend underneath to make this look right. Otherwise, if I tried to blend this shape here and then paint this in like all this green, just this little channel and all of this and blend it, it would look very stiff.
Yeah.
So by doing all the background work and then over stroking it, it looks more natural. Okay. So I'm going to do that again here. Now I'm spending a lot of time on these, but these are really important because this is the meat and potatoes of Gudbrandsdal, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do the C stroke here. Pull that down. And then the next one, fill in the bumper and pull this down. Now half on, half off and push out like I'm going to do an S, but it's almost like I'm just giving a little bump out and then I'm pulling it back in and right back on top of again. It's like when you're driving down the road and then, you know, a possum runs out in front of you, which happened to me the other night, and you want to swerve around and then come back in.
A possum?
Yes, on the way home from the airport. Thankfully, we did not hit it.
Oh.
After everything, then that happens.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That we were like, ah.
You don't live in Southern California.
No, I live in Bel Air, Maryland. Instead of walking down and instead of shopping on Rodeo Drive, we're cow tipping down Rodeo Drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then we can come down the other side. All right. Give that little teardrop there and then a little bump. And you'll know if you can fit any more. You'll see that it gets tight. That can only fit 2 there. All right.
And possums can get pretty big, can't they?
Yes, they can.
We don't have them here either.
No, we've got possum, and then you'll have fox, and you have coyote, occasionally a bear.
They're kind of new in Minnesota. We never used to have them, but
Oh, really?
I guess it's climate change. Somebody.
Oh, we have mountain lions.
Yeah. That's funny. East Coast, I possums forever. Raccoons, skunk.
We had a lot of
God.
coyotes last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they show up here too. Have to watch with our little dogs here.
Oh, yeah.
Something ate all my pansies last night.
Oh, no.
That sounds like deer.
I think it's probably the deer.
Yeah. They like my lilacs. And we looked, and there's been a big deer hanging around. And last Friday, we saw she had a baby.
Oh, look at that.
And she was only not knee high to me. She a little bitty baby.
Oh, man.
So
Couldn't walk hardly. It was so cute.
All right, I'm going to focus back on painting here. How do those leaves feel?
Good.
Good. It builds on the flowers. So
Yep, it builds on the flowers. So these leaves I want you to finish up for the other night. Now, I just want to show for the last it's amazing how fast the class goes. What I'd like you to do now is just watch me paint for a little bit, not paint with me. So this way you can go to the end of the video and take care of some of the bits and pieces here to finish it up. How does that sound?
Fine.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So first, detailing this. Now, I'm going to come back and say that your dark blue, I'm going to take a small portion of this and add medium to it because that is actually our dark detailing is just the dark blue. Now, if it becomes too transparent or you feel like it needs a little black, you can certainly add black to this, okay? But I'm going to add some of my nice little detail paint that we use to go around our green leaves just to show you the detail here. And you don't have a lot of room, but you could put just a nice little vein. You know, when you have a leaf, there's a vein that goes through it. And you could put a teardrop on either side. You could leave it blank if you want. You don't have to put that little vein, but it is kind of nice to pull that in. Right? Now, underneath our green leaves here, there are green scrolls. I loaded my brush with some of that dark blue, and that dark blue is what's going to go under. And it gives it just a little contrast. Where everything's been very white, white-ish, we can put that little bit of dark blue in there, right? And it balances it. This dark blue can also come on the inside of those medium blue C strokes here. And again, balances the color. Right? On either side. Now, what I'm doing too, I'm not doing all of the pieces because I'm going to scan what I'm painting right now. So you'll have a portion that will have the detail and a portion that doesn't. So you can look at both and compare, okay? Now, on the outside of your, or actually on the inside of these scrolls too, you have that white blue. That's also the detail you put here, okay? So you'll see as you look at it where you're going to need detail. But what I want to look at is our little blue flowers that are similar to the ones that we did to start with. So there we're going to come back and you can use your smaller brush. And this time, sorry, that's falling on me. This time, instead of coming up in that C shape, I'm actually going to concentrate in the center here. And I'm going to do almost like a little ball of blue. Okay. There's my little ball of blue. I'm going to wipe off my brush and then load my brush with that medium blue that we had. And I'm going to come around the outside bump and then up to the V shape up the top. The same on the other side. A bump and then the V. Fill this in. Wipe off your brush. Then go ahead and blend. I flattened it when I wiped it. And then I want to pull this in that circle here. I want to blend on one side. Wipe your brush. Add more color if you need. And see, I'm moving it. And then go ahead and blend on the other. I need a little more dark blue. Go ahead and blend this. So much like we did. And if you do that C or that double-headed C shape, that's totally fine too. But notice I'm just bringing up this nice blend here. Now, when you have a little more time, I'm not going to end that glaze, but you can certainly add it. Okay. All right. So nice little shape there. I'm going to go back into my light blue with the detail in it. And the same thing that we did earlier. I'm going to go ahead and outline around it. This just has almost like a little teardrop on either side, right? Okay, and I can bring this down to the bottom. Oops, sorry about that. Then just like what we did to the bigger blue flowers, this is going to have a little bit of a hook. So same exact idea. I'm going to give that little hook and down. Now, obviously it's a smaller flower, so it's a smaller hook, right? But the same idea, just to guide you. Then back into your lighter blue without the medium. Up into the little V, pull that little teardrop down. Do it again. Add more paint as needed. And then it gives that little bump out and then back in. All right.
Are you doing that with your liner or?
I'm doing this with my number 2 brush. Thank you, Lynn, for asking. My liner will be too thin.
Right.
You want the round brush to do this so you can push down and get a thicker stroke with this. All right. And back out and in.
Yeah, true.
So this has that same look. It's just a smaller version of that bigger flower. And the correspondence here for the detailing is that same thin, thick, thin. But this won't really have room for those little side things. So I'm just going to do some straight lines here. And then I can even use my yellow, whether it's the yellow deep, the Turner's yellow, Indian yellow, and give a little dot there for a sepal, just because. Okay. I'm going to show two more elements with this. Is this good watching me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. It takes the pressure of trying to paint with me. I'd rather you concentrate on what I'm doing so you can go back with the video and look at it. All right. So those are, obviously you have them throughout, but that is the extent of the real turned leaves. But I do have a little turned flower here. But first what I have, and I'm going to just add to my palette here, my yellow deep. I already have the yellow oxide. I'm going just a few minutes over. I hope that's okay with everybody. But I do want to show this. I'm going to yellow deep. I'm going to add vermilion because vermilion's my red, but I'm also going to put a little bit of purple matter. Now, purple matter, I'll send a little video to, is what I did antique it with. So I'm going to demonstrate that in that video so you have it. But I am going to use purple matter as a base of a little leaf here. So just going to add a little purple matter. Okay. First, it's your pulled leaves. We'll go back. Oh, I should say, first I should come to the center. The center are very simple. They're your bright yellow, and they're almost like a little teardrop that's coming out. There's not much here. Just adding that bright color. If you need to do 2 strokes of that, 2 layers, by all means do 2 layers. Okay. And the center of that is just the dark blue little sepal dot there. Very simple, right? The next one is a pulled flower where you're going to layer your colors. I'm going to use the smaller round brush here. And I'm going to go into my vermilion. And at the tip of those center blue, nice big blue flowers there, there's a triplet. It's a teardrop. It's a pull down, one on this side, and one on that side. There's our triplet, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to wipe off my brush just a little bit. I'm going to tip into my next color, which is the darker yellow, the yellow oxide or yellow ochre. And notice I'm not putting much. But I'm going to go and just at the very top here, go ahead and push down and pull a stroke. But did you see I didn't go all the way down? I went about 2/3. So that way, whether you're working with oils or acrylics, that color will blend. All right. Drive safely. Thank you. See ya. Bye. Okay. So one more time. That was my daughter's boyfriend driving home. He's got an 1.5-hour drive. Yep. So I keep telling him if he's here late, he can spend the night. It's okay. All right. So exactly. Now I'm going to go into that brighter yellow, whatever it may be, just a little tip. I'm going to do it again, but start at the top. Notice I am coming in at about a 45-degree angle on this. I'm going to hit the top again and pull even less, maybe only 1/3 of the stroke. And then one last time with a little white just on the center. Okay. What's going to make those triplet flowers blossom, and I will put another example here, but I'm going to detail this one, but I will have an example for you, is your detailing, because you're going to detail around that with some of your greenish white, and watch how it pops. Okay, notice I turned it around towards me. Now what I'm going to do is Just pull a C or a little teardrop and an S out of it. And all of a sudden, those little triplet flowers, look how much more they grew. Okay. For my sample, I'll make sure there's another one there for you to see. Okay. We're going to show one last thing. Did that make sense as I did that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. On either side of your blue flower, there's little yellow flowers. Well, one is very easy. One is just that brighter yellow as a dot. That's all it is. Just a little dot. But the slightly bigger one has a little bit more to it. And that one actually is based in purple madder. You're going to do a little purple madder to start it. There's a circle. Okay. Now we want to let it dry, but of course, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go into my yellow oxide here. I wiped my brush off. And on the outside of it, I'm going to overstroke a little C or a little teardrop.
What color did you use?
I started with purple madder.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I went to yellow oxide or yellow ochre.
Okay.
You probably want to let it a little dry, but I'm going to do the same on the other side. So a little C. I'll show that really close here without it fading out on us. You see it there?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You see how that? It's like a little hook.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm going to go into the brighter yellow. And on the other side, I'm going to do a little circle. So I leave a little of that darkness on the top. See that? I'm leaving a little showing. And typically they're opposing each other. So this, well, I took too much out, but that's okay. A little bump there. And then I'm going to do an S. Little S. So the three little petals, and I'll paint that bigger for you guys and send out another sample so you can see it in a bigger form so that it will make more sense. But it makes this little flower bud shape that we can let it sit. So I'll send that out so it looks bigger so you can adapt it. That'll make sense. All right.
Yeah.
That basically covers the elements. The detail, anything with this now is really stem lines. Okay. That we're going to put in using your dark blue. For example, a stem. And then some lines for your little flowers here, right? But our biggest portion of this is those turned leaves. That is what puts Gudbrandsdal all together.
Yeah.
Right? Does anybody have any questions for this evening?
Really nice color combination.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it is.
I'm always hoping that I'm going. Oh, I appreciate it. I am always hoping I'm going to get further in the class where I'm like, we're going to have it all done. But,
Yeah, right.
but, so what I'm hoping is that this gives you enough groundwork. And again, I'm going to send out the scan of this, and plus I'll add some extra little pictures so that will help you finish this portion. And the nice thing is I did the front page of that packet I sent out today has a beautiful, it came out very nice on the scan. Of the piece, right? I was really happy with how that
really good.
And I was happy with how the back came out as well with this. And if you notice for the back, we're going to be dealing with very similar elements that we did tonight, only in a different adaptation of it. So you can see how we're going to grow those same turned leaves, but because we've spent so much time with them tonight, hopefully when we do them on Thursday night, they will flow a little faster with them because we've had practice. How does that sound for everybody?
Good.
Good.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. So I'm going to say, I will send out everything tomorrow. As soon as the video comes in, I can process that. So you get the video and you get the scans. And like I said, Carla, I will do a little video about the antiquing so you can see that too. Okay. So that will help everybody. My pleasure.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank
you, Lisa.
Thank you. Rest is up.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank
And
you,
thank
Lisa.
Elaine.
Thank you, Lisa. Have a wonderful
Good
night.
night.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thursday.
See you Thursday. Bye-bye.
Can't leave.